Hey guys, Andy here. This time last year I had quite a tough decision to make between my Note 4 and my Nexus 6. I'd been quite a big Note fan up to that point. The Note 3 had been my daily driver, so I kind of assumed the Note 4 would be, but actually I was run over by the Nexus 6. This year it's a similar quandary. So I picked up my Note 5 in Canada and I'm loving it. And then I've picked up the Nexus 6P on release a few weeks back, and actually that's an amazing device as well. So I thought, as I did last year, I'd make a video on my reasoning of which I'm going to choose this year. If we start off with design, a big improvement for the Note 5 does feel great in the hand with its glass back and metal surround. This can lead to a little greasy feel at times though, and fingerprints galore. Both are beautiful looking devices, a little tall for some people, but the 6P has a little more character, and with its metal body and black bar, I'm going to go with the Nexus 6P for design. Hardware wise, last year these two matched up in many ways, and the stylus, removable battery and the micro SD card slot was the difference maker for the Note 4. This year Samsung have given up on those and have moved to its own chipset CPU and GPU. These, perhaps with the extra 1 gig of RAM, means that Samsung pulls some impressive benchmarks much higher than the Nexus 6P. The Nexus 6P does have top-end specs. The Snapdragon 810 chipset has its doubters, including Samsung, it would appear, but it seems to do a great job. It also has amazing speakers, better even than the Nexus 6. The Nexus 6P obviously has USB-C, but is this a selling point or an annoyance at this time? It opens the door to a better future with charging at 3 amps and faster data transfer, but at the moment it means you're buying all new cables, and not many cables actually use it properly as it should. The ones that do look to be £15 or so at the moment, so that's why I wonder if it's a bit of an annoyance. One other point to think about is the fingerprint sensor, something I didn't really use until 2 months ago. Now I feel I couldn't be without it. The 6P actually has a faster and more convenient sensor. Just hold your finger on it, no pressing of any power buttons, and you're back in action. Despite this, the better out-and-out performance and the handy stylus are enough to swing me to the Note 5. Then we move on to the camera. The Nexus 6P photos look great, especially in the dark, but it really misses optical image stabilization when recording video. Note 5 has this and therefore is the safer option because it still has great looking photos and it has stable video. Also, throwing the stock Android camera app on the 6P is a little basic. The Note 5 has better software options in its app. So the Note 5 takes the camera. If we move on to performance, Marshmallow on the 6P is super slick, but actually the Note 5 performs amazing too, even with TouchWiz. You could argue the benchmarks indicate the Note 5 will perform better, and that's actually backed up by my Angry Birds 2 opening test. But actually I'm going to call this one a tie. If we move on to software, as I said last year, actually some of Samsung's bloat is actually quite useful. The split screen, the one-handed mode, the camera app, the stylus software. But then the 6P is running Marshmallow, with its own features like Doze and Now on Tap, and it's always going to be one step ahead of the Note 5. So I'm going to call software goes to the Nexus 6P. Finally, move on to battery. Early indications are that whilst the Nexus 6P has a bigger battery, the Note 5 lasts longer with actual use. Android Aim brings Doze mode, which should give the 6P a boost for standby time, but it doesn't often come into play for me. This might be a controversial one, and I might even change my mind in time, but I'm going to go with the Note 5 for the better battery. Of course, it will be getting with updates, Doze, and Samsung's own sort of version of Doze, I think, is on its way literally in the next month. So, in conclusion, one thing I noticed looking through these results, none of them are that clear and easy as a winner. If someone else chose the opposite to me, I'd have a tough time trying to persuade them over to my view. It's that close. I could even be persuaded to flip myself with a bit of encouragement, I expect. Last year the Note 4 won 4-1 and I kept the Nexus 6 as my daily driver. This year a closer match, 3-2 in favour of the Note 5, but even with the Nexus pulling one back, right now I'm leaning towards using the Note 5 as my daily driver. I could be swayed back to the Nexus though, especially if they can improve the electronic image stabilization with a future update. But for me right now, I feel the Note 5 is a better option. I'm sure there's many of you out there that disagree with me on everything I've said and everything I've chose. I will of course look forward to reading your comments down below, so please do leave them. But for now, my name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon.